Davidson, Director of Research for ISA, and joining me is Jim Nelson, the Yield Challenge Coordinator with ISA. Yeah, we're just going to have a little quick brief webinar about getting started with Yield Challenge this year, just a few instructions and how to get started. Just to move forward, just got a few PowerPoint slides we'll cover. This is the overview where by listening in today you will learn a little bit about the website to locate worksheets, just more information on complete the registration sheet, how to download and complete the first worksheet, and tips on getting started, and a few due dates. So let's talk about here. Jim, tell us about the Yield Challenge website and what the captains will find there.
Okay, well, if you go to the soyyieldchallenge.org, that's a good place to find a number of different things that you're going to want to use. The brochures are available on a link there. We'll try to keep you updated with things that are happening there. But one of the sites that we're looking at is data reporting, and that will give you a rundown of the different types of data sheets that we will have available for you throughout the year.
And so they can go to this website here, this page, and click on like registration, pre-planning, planting, and they can open up a worksheet.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, talk a little bit about the, just quickly review, Jim, if they click on and they get the registration sheet, just talk a bit about that.
Well, the registration sheet is how we enter who's going to be on your team. This is a starting point for you. It also is a good place for us to have you name your team. A lot of times different companies might have more than one team, so we want to be able to distinguish which team it is. And there's the team type, which most of you that are listening to this are going to be talking about the farmer-sponsored sponsors that put together farmer teams, although we also have student teams and we have some public plots. And crop reporting district. This kind of gives us the basis of how to start entering this data. And also on that, we'd like to know who your sponsor is, so we can also use that information for other contacts and for invoicing. And then we start out with the captains. The captain is the person that really is going to be an important person here that we contact, and also that does a lot of your organizing. Then a listing of team members, up to 10 different team members can be listed there. This is confidential information. We don't sell these lists or do anything with this that will betray their information unless they want to go ahead and be publicized, and then we'll do that with a written permission. And so a good spot here is for us to find out where they're located, and phone numbers and emails so that we can also do correspondence with them.
And I notice, of course, we do assure some confidentiality. Grower names will remain confidential. We won't share those with anybody. But we do ask for some email addresses because at the end of the year, we might like to send out the final report for each team member. And so we would like to have an email address if you're willing to share it.
Yeah, certainly would appreciate that.
Well, let's talk about, we have some worksheets planned. Just talk about that briefly. We have 4 worksheets planned. They're Excel-based, and you'll get these, be able to download these from the internet site. They're Excel files. You can see the first worksheet is up. And what this is an Excel file. You have an opportunity to fill out some information. We have some drop-down boxes to simplify the selection process, and we just need a little cropping information on in the yield challenge plots or in the standard plot. What are those decisions? What are those production practices that are going into those plots? And so we try to make it really quick and simple, and to answer those questions. And it's Excel-based, and you can download it. You can sit with a few minutes with the grower and just fill it out, and then email it or fax it back to us at the NS Hall address that we'll get to. Which, Jim, on this, to talk a little bit about when we look at this worksheets, we have a snapshot of it here. You know, what are the kinds of information we're asking them to complete?
Well, the information that we're looking for is some of the crop history, so that we kind of understand if there's been rotation going on and what crops we're following. we want identification of where this is. We will also use some of that identification to save you some input, because we'll go ahead and overlay things like soil types and information that will keep you from having to look it up for us. Also, any kind of fertility treatments and soil treatments and even unique treatments there, that would be good to enter in. If we don't have a box there, we try to put boxes and drop downs to make it easy. If it doesn't apply, don't stress over it. Just you may need to omit that particular one and move on. But also we have room for comments, and comments are very helpful. If it's something that we don't have a way to fit into the drop-down boxes, we can still understand what you're doing if you can just give us a real short few words of narration. We'd like to know what kind of tillage is happening here, because a lot of people are making decisions based upon how certain practices correlate with the type of tillage that they're using. Also, pre-plant. This is all that's going up into the planting stage. So pre-plant weed information and control information, what kind of burn downs you're using, and so on. And then obviously your seeding information at planting time is very important to us, and that can be everything from what kind of varieties are you using, what kind of traits are in it, and what kind of planting rates are you using, are there inoculants used, and seed treatments, and so on.
And we want to just emphasize that this is some kind of important information to help analyze the results. And but we know that everyone's pretty busy, and we don't want to overwhelm you with collecting data. So we try to make it simple, ask some questions with the growers, and if you sit together a few times during the season, and I think you'll find that this isn't that overwhelming to fill out. That with just focusing for a few minutes and asking some questions, you can answer most of these questions. So we're not trying to make this a big burdensome task, and yet we would like to get some information so that we can do some analysis and find some correlations maybe be seen between some of the treatments and what's happening out there in the field, what's happening in the environment. Let's talk about this file naming. I did mention, Jim, earlier that we will have 4 worksheets, one at planning, one kind of an early season, kind of a simple scouting report, a later season scouting report, and then a harvest report. Let's just talk about these are all Excel files that they will download. They'll fill out for each of the team members, and so we have to have a certain file naming notation.
Yes, we're going to help you with some of that, because we're calling these different worksheets by number, and these are the way they would progress through the season. And then if you see initials like PL is the planting one that we just discussed, later on we'll have early season growth, and this would be where you would also log information such as scouting observations that you made and any treatments that you made during that time. Then we broke it off into a later season, starting at about R2 through about R5, and that would be a very similar report, but just another time to take a snapshot of what's going on at that time. And then HB will stand for harvest. We also will assign you a team number, and that will help us to keep your information straight throughout the whole process so that we don't lose track of it. And then we suggest then that you will supply us with the grower's last name, or if there's more than one grower by that name, we'll end up with another initial or something added to that. And that'll give us a protocol that every time we look at this, we can automatically locate what time it was, what process it was in, and then what team it belongs to and who the grower is.
Okay, yeah, so as the captains, as they work to fill out these little worksheets, just as you'll download kind of a master sheet, then you'll just save it for each grower, and as Jim said, we'll provide you with a team number. You just type in save it under a grower's last name, and then we'll have 4 sheets that go with your team and that particular team member. And so this should help streamline the data inflow into the Illinois Soybean Association. We have let's talk about it as we look out over this over the next 6 weeks or so. We have some tasks to complete. Well, just to remind you of things to focus on. Jim, what are some of those tasks?
Well, first of all, we want you to get registered with your teams. And even if you have some latecomers to your team, try to send us everything that you have now. We'd like to get this done so we can get you started properly, and also because we know you're going to get busy in the field. And so we've suggested the 15th as being a great date for that. I know we're coming up on that very quickly, but please try to think about getting at least the start of that in terms of who your team members are. We're going to make this available for other worksheets, such as the planting season and the ones that we just discussed on April 20th. We'd also like you to pull out your soil samples as soon as possible. We have soil kits that we will be glad to send out to you, and at the end of this webinar there's contact information, and if you send in to us who your team is, we'll be glad to send you out the number of kits that you would need for that. A kit is a very simple thing. It's a plant rate box, doesn't cost you anything to send it back, along with some Ziploc bags and a little instruction in it, trying to make it, again, a very simple task to do. And of course, review these worksheets a little bit and think about the plan of what questions do you need to ask of your growers in order to get rolling on that. And I suggest you try to do this throughout the season and not let it wait till the end of the season. It's very hard to reconstruct some of the information if you don't do it as it flows.
And then, of course, this first worksheet, which we call the planting worksheet, it's due back to us by June 1st. Just a few points to be successful. Of course, we build the right collaborative teams. Captains are the really key to the success of this whole yield challenge, but it's also important to continue to communicate with team members. You need to be a little bit organized and do some planning. You probably need to, if you cannot spend the time a little bit in collecting the information to go with each yield challenge, maybe you need to assign someone to record that information. You need to continue coaching team members to get them, keep them engaged and involved in the whole yield challenge, and then just be able to prepare to ask some questions to complete the worksheets. As I had said earlier, we're not trying to overwhelm you with collecting data. We try to keep this pretty simple to asking some questions and making a few observations, so it shouldn't take too much time to complete the information for any one team member. What do they do, Jim, with this information once they download these worksheets and they start completing them and storing them under a particular file name for each team member? What do they do with that?
Well, we've made it, tried to make it very easy for you to use multiple different ways of sending it back to us, however it's most convenient for you. A lot of you would probably just like to do this electronically and email back. Miss Linda Lee at Illinois, at the National Soybean Research Lab is helping us to funnel a lot of this information in. So that is her email address. We can also fax it to her, and that number is provided here, which if you're just listening, that number is 217-244-1707, or you can just mail it back into the Yield Challenge data at the National Soybean Research Lab over at Urbana. So those are 3 different ways. If you want to fill out things by hand, you can certainly mail it in or fax it in. If you'd like to make copies of it and electronically, but still would like to send it back by fax or mail, that's okay, but I think a lot of you will just probably attach it to an email, which would be a very quick and easy way to do it.
Thank you, Jim. Now, how this might work, just to kind of recap here, these worksheets will be available on the web as of about April 20th. You can just download it and store it to your laptop. You can then just make that a master template and work to complete one for each of your team members, and restoring it or saving it under a particular file name to go with your team number and the grower's name. And then you can, after you fill it out electronically just on your laptop, you can just email it in to NSRL to Linda Lee, or you could just print it off and fax it, or you could even mail it. But because of the kind of the nature of the Excel file with drop-down boxes and that, it's probably easier just to fill it out on the computer and then either just email it back or fax it back, whatever works best for you. We'll be sending out several of these email blasts with some instructions. We'll do the next one on about May 20th, which accompanies the early season worksheet with a few instructions and things to, or suggestions for things to pay attention to for that June and early July timeframe. So I want to thank you for attending. Good luck in getting the Yield Challenge launched, and we look forward to receiving information. Jim, any final comments from you?
Well, I know that there always can be questions arise, and if you want to send me an email at yieldchallenge@ilsoy.org, I'd be glad to also respond or send it to the right people to get you the right information you need. So we look forward to making you successful. I think we've made a lot of things simpler this year. Some of it might be new and different, but I think you'll find that it'll work quite well once we get involved in it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim, and good luck to all getting started.
Thank you.